Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the Most Valuable Podcast. These are our power rankings for Week 16. I am Sean Anderson, and but three of us from Most Valuable Podcast compile our power rankings for every week. We calculate, we analyze, and put them together and bring them to a video for you. Let's get into it. At number 32, we have the Dallas Cowboys. At number 31, we have the Cleveland Browns. At number 30, we have the Tennessee Titans. At number 29, we have the Baltimore Ravens. And at number 28, we have the San Francisco 49ers. We all know about Ricky's hate for the Cowboys, and it's just because of we know who's on their team. Mark was actually pleading, saying that Dallas is not the worst team in the league, but we still, Ricky and I, put them at the bottom just because of they're terrible. They have used 4 quarterbacks this year, and they have some scumbag on their team. At 31, we have the Cleveland Browns here. 30, Tennessee Titans. We know that they're a struggling team, but Marcus Mariota has shown a beautiful future for this Tennessee team. And then 29, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who are currently running Jimmy Clausen as their quarterback, and us Bears fans all know how big of a train wreck that can become. And at 28, we have the San Francisco 49ers, who are Blaine Gabbert's looked okay, weirdly enough, and he's looked better than he had in his Jacksonville days, but we're going to skip on because all those teams are garbage. We're going to 27 now with the Miami Dolphins. We have 26 with the San Diego Chargers. We have 25 with my Bears. Bears. At 24, we have the Atlanta Falcons, and that group of 4 right there, again, teams that are slipping out of playoff contention. I think they're all been eliminated. Maybe the Falcons have some light, but I'm pretty sure they don't unless the Vikings lose every game and the Falcons beat the Panthers somehow this week. The Dolphins have struggled a bit ever since they fired their offensive coordinator. The Bears have just looked poor with Robbie Gould missing 2 field goals the past 2 weeks. And the Falcons getting a win, weirdly enough. I had them as my worst team last week, and then they get a win. They've jumped up to 24 now, so maybe some light there. And now we'll move to the next group of 5. We have at number 22, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucks. We have 22, a tie there. I'm sorry. We have a tie, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. Then at 21, we have the Indianapolis Colts. At 19, we have another tie there. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars and the St. Louis Rams. The Rams are kind of the surprising that they're up here this high. They did beat the Bucks, so I ranked them higher just because of that. But they've used 2 quarterbacks already. Case Keenum looked okay against the Bucks, and maybe he can last the Rams for at least a season. I doubt that. They'll most likely go to the quarterback in the draft. The Jags looked great against Indianapolis, and then they fall off this week. Kind of see what they're like without TJ Yeldon. The Colts looking terrible with Matt Hasselbeck as their quarterback, and Charlie Whitehurst is not the answer, and they're praying for luck because they're still in the AFC South, but they're going to need some help. And then the Saints looking awful against Detroit, and the Bucks looking promising in the middle of the season, but then falling off the table there. Now we're going to jump to the next group of 5. At 18, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 17, we have the Detroit Lions. At number 16, we have the New York Football Giants. At number 15, we have the Buffalo Bills. And number 14, we have the Oakland Raiders. Oakland is kind of the team that they've shown great promise, and then they fell off, and then they kind of rose back up with that Denver win, and then they lose to Green Bay. I was hesitant to drop them because they only lost by 10 to Green Bay, but again, Green Bay's kind of looking like a pretender right now. So Oakland, while their future looks great with Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, possibly Latavius Murray, and we all know about Khalil Mack, that is a team that's going to be definitely a team of the future. The Bills still hanging on. They're going to need a lot of help to get in. They're most likely not going to get in. But Rex Ryan did a pretty decent year in his first year as the Buffalo Bill coach. Detroit Lions getting a win against New Orleans. Still, they're out of playoff contention, and they're just not a team unless Calvin Johnson and Matt Stafford miraculously bring that team up in the next year. The Giants still in that NFC least, as Ricky likes to call it. And the Eagles, again, still in that NFC least, as that's just a completely train wreck of a division there. Going to go to the next group of 5, though. Number 13, we have the Houston Texans currently leading the AFC South at 13. At number 12, we have the Washington Redskins. At number 11, we have the Minnesota Vikings. At number 10, we have the New York Jets. At number 9, we have the Denver Broncos. Broncos losing to the Steelers, looking terrible in that second half. It could be worrisome for these Denver fans. We don't know if they're going to even win the AFC West the way the Chiefs are going. If they lose to the Bengals and then they lose in Week 17, that could be very worrisome. Do they bring in Peyton Manning? Do they keep Brock the Cock running at quarterback? These are questions that are unknown and unanswered, and we will really see that in the Monday night game against Cincinnati. New York Jets are currently on a 5-game winning streak, I believe, and they're going up against the Patriots, and this will really prove if the Jets are contenders in this league. If they go out and beat the New England Patriots, that's going to be a very promising side for Todd Bowles and his New York Jets. But again, Ryan Fitzpatrick looking, very capable as a starting quarterback in New York, possibly because of the Decker and Marshall duo he is running. At number 11, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who showed some very great promise with Teddy Bridgewater only having 3 incompletions, taking over when Adrian Peterson fell out of the game. And, he had 3 incompletions. I think one of them was a deflected ball, and one was just 2 drops. So, again, great performance by Teddy Bridgewater. And earlier, Ricky and I were speaking about the comparison between Cam Newton and Teddy Bridgewater, where their first seasons, Cam and Teddy had very similar QBRs. The next season, Cam had a similar QBR to his first season, but Teddy, I think he's surpassed it by 10 points his rookie year. So Teddy Bridgewater looking very promising in Minnesota there. Redskins leading the NFC least. They can jump into playoff contention and maybe at 8-8, and that's just going to be terrible for the NFL, I believe. Same with the Texans there. 2 terrible teams still going to make the playoffs. 2 teams have to make the playoffs from the NFC least and the AFC South. Not really good for football. You would rather like to see the New York Jets get that playoff spot over the Houston Texans. But I digress. We're going to go to the next group of 4. We're going to start it off with number 8, the Green Bay Packers. At number 7, we have the red-hot Kansas City Chiefs. At number 6, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. And at number 5, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh's looking fantastic. Ben Roethlisberger looking great when he's not injured. Antonio Brown looking like one of the, he's looking like the best wide receiver like he was last year in the NFL. Chiefs, we all know about their red hotness. The first ever team to win 8 straight games after losing 5 straight games. A complete roller coaster there for Andy Reid in Kansas City, but looking very unstoppable, kind of. I mean, their defense looks great. Their offense is popping with Chakandrick West, Alex Smith, and Jeremy Maclin. Also, Travis Kelce at that tight end spot. And the Green Bay Packers, kind of mentioned it earlier. Are they contenders? Are they pretenders? We don't know what they're really going to do in the playoffs when they get to it because they have clinched a playoff spot at least. We don't know if that's going to be a wild card or the NFC North spot, really depending on that Week 17 game against the Vikings. And now we're going to go to the top 4. The Seattle Seahawks jumping in at 4. At number 3, we have the Arizona Cardinals. At number 2, we have the New England Patriots. And at number 1, we have the Carolina Panthers. Like Ricky said, until the Carolina Panthers lose, they're going to be number 1 forever. And looking at their schedule, it looks very possible that they're not going to lose. Number 2, we have my New England Patriots. That brings a complete smile to my face. Tom Brady is kind of having a career year here. We saw in 2007 where he threw 50 picks. Or 50 picks. That would have been a terrible year. I'm an idiot. 50 touchdowns, set the NFL record at the time, brought his team to a 16-0 regular season. And then 2010 where he threw 36 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Those were, heralded as his best years. But now he's doing it with, a depleted wide receiver core. Gronk has been hurt, a terrible offensive line. His running backs are falling. Steven Jackson had to be called in. And yet Tom Brady is leading his team to a 12-2 record right now and currently can go 14-2. So Patriots looking unstoppable on that defense. Even losing Darrelle Revis, they've looked better somehow. And then the Cards, they have been hot, and Ricky had them at 2. I think Mark had them at 2, or I think Mark had them at 3, and I had them at 3, and that's why they fall to number 3. But they could very easily be at that number 2 spot where New England is. And Seattle Seahawks, they're not going to win the NFC West, but they have come on in the past couple of weeks. They have beaten up on very bad teams, but those bad teams have looked awful compared to Seattle Seahawks, and Seattle's just blown them out completely. So tell us what you think about our power rankings down below. Check out these links over here. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Most Valuable Podcast on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe down below. Like our video. And just tell us what you think about our power rankings down below. And tell us how you think the playoffs are actually going to shake out. I am Sean Anderson, and it's been a pleasure.